they going to retire ISO Joe Johnson's number in Utah, or are they going to fire Doc Rivers before Game 6? Look, where do we begin? The Clippers might want to throw Game 6, and I know that sounds insane. And why would you want to throw a game? It's not a good way to lose, and they would never actually, in reality, just force 45 turnovers and just throw the game.
Yeah.
Game 6 is Friday, April 28th, and you can lose on Friday, and then you can start to rethink everything about this offseason. Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, Doc Rivers, JJ Redick. We've done the clip on that already. You can battle back, win Game 6, bring it back to Game 7, and then lose the series in 5 games to the Warriors if you're lucky. If not, it will be a sweep. But I get the idea. This team, we've been saying, are they poised to make a run? But here's what's not true anymore. The Clippers are the wild card.
I watched the game quite a lot last night, as much as I could. There was a period in this game that it was simply horrendous on both ends. They were missing shots for, I would say, a good...
Felt like 5 minutes at a time.
5 minutes, right? And then on basketball terms, that's a long time. But the one thing that I noticed about the Clippers once more is you're telling me that Doc Rivers, you're making a decision when you're chasing a game to bring in and start Paul Pierce. Now, nothing against Paul Pierce, bring him in, I believe it was in the fourth quarter or third quarter to change things up. That's the decision that you're going to make to kind of make this push towards pushing a team that on paper you are far better than, and that's nothing against the Jazz. As we were talking about it off camera, Joe Johnson, Gordon Hayward, these are guys that are good players, but when you have a star point guard on your team who is a phenomenally gifted basketball player, really struggling to utilize anyone else other than DeAndre Jordan, and in JJ Redick, his shot hasn't gone down, and he actually had his best game in the series so far. But
yeah, absolutely.
It just looked to me that Doc Rivers ran out of ideas once again when another team started to frustrate them defensively, and he had no real depth to bring on off the bench.
Well, that's what I was mentioning. You say Paul Pierce. Who are you going to bring on instead? Raymond Felton, Austin Rivers. Who I can't believe at this point, 3 years later, after he was one of the worst players in the league, is actually a viable player for the Clippers. Jamal Crawford can't play defense. I love the guy, but he can't play defense. Brandon Bass can't play. Wesley Johnson can't play. They signed these guys for depth, and they proved that they're not depth.
Yeah.
Rudy Gobert swept the ball. He had 5 steals and 2 blocks. He's an absolute force underneath, and he was outplayed DeAndre Jordan in this game.
He caused DeAndre Jordan to do things that DeAndre Jordan is uncomfortable doing. The amount of times that Chris Paul would find DeAndre Jordan in the paint to be an easy dunk or simply post up and then just drop it in, but Rudy Gobert makes it. He's so long and gangly. He might not have the same size, thickness as DeAndre Jordan, but his limbs are so long that he consistently was putting DeAndre Jordan in difficult situations. And then on the other end of the court, he was posing a problem for DeAndre Jordan because DeAndre Jordan was so caught up trying to focus on Rudy Gobert that he was leaving spaces where, and I think it was Kenny Smith that was talking about it, he was occupying so much of his energy on Rudy Gobert that he was leaving spaces that was easily lanes for other players in the Jazz to kind of find that viable.
Hood was able to cut, George Hill was able to cut, Gobert was able to make cuts and get to the line a lot, and your center shouldn't be getting to the line as much as Gobert was, at least in that instance. It's the same story. I don't know, you can beat a dead horse as much as you want. Chris Paul was phenomenal in the fourth quarter. Chris Paul took over the game and did everything he could to get his team back into it. And I think he's getting more and more frustrated that he can't get his teammates to perform the way that I think that he's trying to hold his ability to. I think there's a really bad argument when people say Chris Paul is overrated. I think that those who make the argument don't watch Chris Paul play basketball. I think they just look at scores. They just look at numbers. I think they look at the success of his team. And while that's a very fair way at times to size up a talent, there's a reason why most GMs want Chris Paul. There's a reason. When most GMs are smarter than us, some are not. The Kings, for example, definitely not. Doc Rivers might not be as GM. So something's got to change there, man. It's got to change, and they got to figure out who to keep, who not to keep, and who to sign, and what to do going forward, because there's no reason the Clippers should be disappearing back into what seemed like the black hole of mediocrity for years and years and years, and before that, even worse. There's enough there to compete in the West next year and then make a better run next year based on what they do. But I don't know, man. Game 6, I'm curious what happens in Utah. I still wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers win the series in 7, but I'm going to give the edge, I guess, in Game 6 to Hayward, Gobert, and Quinn Snyder, who I think has done a phenomenal job coaching.
You either give
has answers for everything.
Yeah,
sorry.
You either give Chris Paul weapons to work with next year, or you say bye to your best possible chance at competing, and you have to start over again and really look forward. Because I believe I look to similar kind of correspondent as we have, Mike Kozemba, and his comments on it. He was actually on Twitter where he was saying that Chris Paul, he's just so gifted, and he's undoubtedly going to go down as one of the best point guards we've seen through this era, in the way that he plays basketball and his ability to I don't know, just make everyone around him. It seems effortless. I don't know how to put it at times. He seems effortless. He's constantly making the right decision at the right time, but he's still giving it to players that I don't think are on his level, other than when he clicks with DeAndre Jordan. And you got to think to yourself, he is no doubt watching someone who was probably in a similar boat as him last year, and Kevin Durant, known as one of the best players in the league, who had a decent chance at winning a championship, but very small in comparison to some of the big teams that were consistently getting stronger, the Golden State Warriors, the Cleveland Cavs, the Spurs. I even think to myself, would Chris Paul be a great fit for the Spurs? This aging Tony Parker era where they're looking for someone else to come in, a new transition basketball player?
I don't know. The other crazy thing, man, I was just telling Dan yesterday, the Clippers are hard capped. They can't sign and trade Blake Griffin, which means the idea of this loophole and this sign and trade Blake, no, man, Doc F that one up too, because you give Luke Mbah-a-Moute a mid-level exception. That's why you can't sign and trade Blake, because of Luke Mbah-a-Moute. That's bad general management. There's no excuses. It really isn't. The Rockets and the Thunder roll the really bad takes that this series defines your MVP. Now, I've been on Russell Westbrook's MVP bandwagon since day one, since before day one. And I think what he did this season warrants it. If you think James Harden is the MVP, right on, man. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not angry about that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think James Harden is objectively any worse than Russell Westbrook. What you saw last night was that the Thunder never stood a chance. The Rockets are the better team, top to bottom. I was discussing with friends at the bar watching the game. And we were talking how you have Westbrook and Harden as 1 or 2 or 2 or 1, whichever which way you keep it. Okay, the 3rd through 8th best player on the floor at all times is a Houston Rockets player. And then you can start to throw in maybe Steven Adams or Victor Oladipo or Andre Roberson. What I saw from that game yesterday was, yes, Russell Westbrook took 34 shots and was 5 of 18 from 3. Let's not forget that the Rockets were 6 of 37 from 3, and the Thunder still shot better. And while it's painful to watch Westbrook take 18 three-pointers, the only reason they were ever in that game in the first place was because of Russ. He shoots them into the game, and then he shoots them out of the game sometimes. And then when he starts to pass it, Roberson bricks threes from the corner, and Oladipo can't create a shot, and Adams played terribly, and partially through the regular season. So my defense of the Rockets, the Thunder, is over. The Rockets were the better team, top to bottom, and they're a terrifying team going to the Western Conference and into the next round against the Spurs or the Grizzlies. I would safely assume the Spurs.
It's a regular season MVP award. I don't know how many times we have to just plaster that around. And I think if you're going to make the case that the Houston Rockets are better than OKC, therefore James Harden is your MVP, then fair play. But they can also make the counter argument that the only reason OKC were ever even in the playoffs and in this position is because Russell Westbrook carried them through. That's what your most valuable player will do, is he will make up for the fact that you are lacking in quality throughout. James Harden did a very similar thing, but he does have players like Beverly who's able to contribute. He does have players around him that are able and have shown through this series that they can drop 20 plus 30 points and come out of nowhere and be phenomenal and assist with his greatness and give him the ability to be better. I didn't see any real Oklahoma City Thunder players, especially in the game last night, allowing Russell Westbrook to be confident in going forward and feeling that Russell Westbrook last night, more evident than ever, felt like it's literally up. It's all up to me, more so than anything else. I need to take 18 three-pointers to try and get this team somewhere that's needed. So just completely discard that from your memory if you're talking about MVP. You're talking about a guy that averaged a triple-double for the entire season and helped this team even get into a competing position.
There's also the rebounds. We don't care about rebounds. When have we cared about a point guard's rebounds? Man, he fights for every single one of them. Don't you want your players to do that? Now, James Harden was terrific in that game at times. He had a very clutch basket driving in the lane using his left, and he had a good three, especially in the fourth quarter. Harden was 2 of 13 from three also. So if you're going to compare them head-to-head in that game, they both played very much like they play, just minus the percentages. The Thunder, in the 6 minutes Westbrook didn't play that game, were outscored 27-9. That's part of the definition of value. And again, it doesn't even have to do with the regular season MVP. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Mike D'Antoni, I think, is the coach of the year. I think what he's done with that Rockets offense is terrifying. And the fact that they won 105-99 when they shot 16.2% from three, were out-rebounded, were out-offensive rebounded 18-10, got less blocks, turned the ball over 12 times, and had less assists and less ball movement, means that any improvement from that means they're going to give it to the Spurs. And it's going to be tough. That's I shouldn't say, I'm not going to just count out the Grizzlies just like that, but I think it's the Spurs. That's a great series.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
We're going to see them tested all the way. So I just wanted to bring some light into the Harden versus Westbrook thing. I think Harden's had the second best season this year, just to Westbrook. I don't think you should be crucifying people for saying that.
No.
Additionally, I would like Mike Korzemba to come on the show, man. We were going back and forth a little bit on Twitter yesterday. You're more than welcome. I think you're in LA. Welcome to come hang out with us. I love your videos, man. I don't know. If you hate me, it's cool. You can still come on the show. Still talk about it.
You don't need to hate me. No one really hates me.
Francis, as for the Spurs, they took care of their business. I love Fizdale. I love his effort. Oh, that's the last thing I need to add to this very long clip in itself. Patrick Beverley. Patrick Beverley did lock down Russell Westbrook. He forced 5 turnovers, I think, against Westbrook in the series. He held him to a very poor shooting percentage, and he was playing like first-team all-defense. I do love the post-game press conferences. I love the trash talk. I like the rivalry there. I think that's a great thing. I thought it got very physical at points. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think they were both right. Westbrook scored, 47 points. So sure, Beverley did not the greatest job in Game 5, but it did take him 34 shots. So it's credit where credit's due to both players.
Russell Westbrook had 150 points, 50 assists, and 50 rebounds just against the Rockets in that series.
First time in NBA history the player's done it in 5 games.
Right. But it's not regular season, regular season 1. It is.
Comment below, like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.